daily basis and certainly on a weekly basis. Here's a small suggestion about summer teaching. Don't. In the long run, you'll make vastly more money writing an article than you will teaching a summer course. Teaching a summer course can get you, I'm not sure, call it $2,000. An article can get you a tenure-track job. After you get a tenure-track job, an article can get you a merit-based salary increment that will add hundreds or thousands of dollars to your salary every year for the rest of your career. So if you publish books, it could add up, and you get offers from outside schools. You get interest, feelers, people recruiting you, people talking about recruiting you, people sending you letters just to say, do you recommend anybody for this position? And by the way, our first choice would be you, just in case you're interested. And, I mean, you can get pay raises just for getting letters like that. So, you know, it doesn't take many $20,000 pay increments. What are they called? Merit increments, retention increments, market adjustments, key personnel adjustments. You know, you get 8 of those at $20,000 a piece, and you're making an extra $1 million every 6 years, on top of what would have been your salary as a teacher at some sub-Middlebury kind of school. So think about it. It's financially you can't afford to teach summer school. So think about that before deluding yourself into believing you really need that $2,000. You aren't a kid anymore. Your time is precious now in a way that it wasn't as recently as a year or two ago. So if you can survive the summer writing an article, write an article. Now, of course, goes without saying, a lot of people hear that and say, yeah, good idea. Might even write it down, but don't really listen. We're wired to do what's easy, not what's best. Writing an article is best. Contriving to not have time is easy. Of course, when it comes right down to it, what's the problem? You aren't sure, and in fact, to this day, I've written 8 books. I'm not sure that I have it in me to do what it takes to write an article. And that's the heart of the problem. Self-doubt leads people to fill their days with crap so as to avoid finding out whether they've got what it takes. So have faith. Do best, not easy. Write the article. And last thing I wanted to talk about is, before we turn this into a conversation, is respect. And so first of all, the idea of respecting your chosen field. There's a reason why it's called a job market, not a job war. Okay? Your colleagues are customers. Don't blame them if they aren't interested in what you have to sell. If success is what you want, start by deserving it. Start by having a kick-ass product. Okay? You deserve success by having a product whose quality your customers can appreciate. Academics is a conversation. Keep in mind, it's a conversation you want to join. If you want your colleagues to respect you, it's a game of reciprocity, and it's your move. You have to start by respecting them. Now, it could be that they are so corrupt that respecting them, respecting their point of view, it's just beneath you, in which case you may need to find another line of work. Bottom line, you want to be independent, but you also want to belong in your discipline, because the thing is, if you can't find a way to belong, you don't belong. I want to talk about respect for the craft of writing. I think Tyler might disagree. In some sense, he'd agree. Everybody finds it hard to write. And one objective is to make it look easy. If you aren't enjoying it as much as you think you should, here's a suggestion. Create first, criticize later. Creation and criticism are psychologically separable processes. Creation comes first. If you start with a blank page, and you write down an idea. If and when you're sure you can prove it, you end up with a blank page. Writing, Deirdre McCloskey says this, and she's right. Writing is thinking. Writing isn't something you do after you've thought it out. Writing is something you do as part of the process of thinking it out. So if you start with that blank page, then you're doing it backwards. You're robbing yourself. If you start as a critic, you're robbing yourself of the joy that comes with being creative. In a rough draft, even terrible ideas are wonderful, because bad ideas, so long as you don't cling to them, generate good ideas. I mean, it's a good way to get over, rough spots, stumping, dumbfounding spots in your writing, to say, okay, I thought this was right. I don't think it's right. I don't think it's going to work. What am I going to do now? Forget about it. Write it down. Write it down. Say, I'm going to defend this, till the cows come home. And then you say, but when I defend this, people are going to say this doesn't work and here's why. Okay, write that down and say, okay, but if that's a good reason for thinking that won't work, that must lead to some other suggestion about what will work. That must tell me how to modify this or what to abandon it in favor of. So bad ideas lead to good ideas, as long as you're talking rough draft, not something that you're going to be putting on the internet or something like that. Let the bad ideas lead to good ideas. Be creative. You don't have to be right in a rough draft. Okay, just get it out there. Get your juices pumping. Another suggestion for making writing more fun is have several writing projects going at the same time. When you get bored with one, just the way our minds work, the others suddenly start to look fascinating. Or the deadline comes up, this thing's due on Wednesday, and the other papers just start to look so compelling. And my view is, run with it. Run with that. Don't fight it. Switch back and forth. Work on what seems fascinating at the time. I do sometimes miss deadlines, but I think I get more done overall, and my prose is fresher because of it. Here's another suggestion. It's for making writing better, but I think it's also a suggestion about making writing more fun. You've written out a point, and the sentences may be 6 lines long, but that's just a sort of superficial kind of thing. But the point is, it's kind of convoluted. So write down a page, read the page carefully, think about what it is you're trying to say, and then put that page down. Look up, say, at the mirror, and explain the point of the page to the mirror without looking down. And you'll find you will not be able to remember the convoluted, the sort of gutted, dead fish prose on the page. What you will be able to remember is the basic point. I mean, what I'm really trying to say is this. So listen to yourself, what you're really trying to say, and then write that down, and that becomes the next draft. Okay? When you do that, you find yourself talking in English. You find yourself talking in terms that maybe your grandmother could understand, or at least maybe in terms that your students could understand, and that's the thing to go with. So I recommend this. I think it's really an excellent exercise. When all you can remember is how you'd phrase the point if you were talking like a real person, take the hint, talk yourself through the paper, and rewrite as you go. Your prose will sound more alive. Your readers will be grateful for it. You may worry. I've heard people say this many times, that if you're clear, people won't respect you. That's a loser's excuse. It's not true. So long as you have a point, not everybody does, but so long as, obviously not everybody has a point, but so long as you have a point, it's unequivocally better to make it clearly. Here's another suggestion. Novelists, if you've taken a creative writing course maybe, novelists have something that they call the hook. So the question is, what can they write on page 1 that will reach out and grab you by the throat in a supermarket checkout line and force you to read to the end of the page 1 and then buy the book, because you have to know what happens next? That's the hook. Academics don't think much about the hook. And as a student, there's a historical reason why, because You go through, what, 12 years, and then another 4 years, and then another, who knows, 5, 6 years, where people are paid to read your stuff. They're obliged to give you feedback. And even then, how much do you really get? Take the hint about that. Once you graduate, you're in a whole different world where writing has to sell. You have to do something special, memorable, to tempt other professors to spend a chunk of their much too busy days reading your paper instead of what they were supposed to be reading. So the most particular disturbing application of that point, think about being on the job market. You might have thought about that once or twice. Imagine a hiring committee sifting through 300 applications. Suppose they have 2 weeks at the end of the fall semester to read applications while also getting their grading done. Now, how much time does that add up to? Well, say they have 4 hours a day, 5 days a week for those 2 weeks. That's 40 hours for applications. Long time? Quite possibly more than they actually have. Even so, if they have 300 dossiers to read, that's 8 minutes per dossier. So think about that before you bet your career on page 37 of your writing sample. Right. If you're serious about your career, there's going to be a hook on page 1. A great writer is a great salesman. Page 1 sells the paper. Okay. Search committees are looking for, I said they're looking for assistant professors. Here's an elaboration of that. I started with that. I'll close with this. Search committees are looking for candidates who will be unproblematic no-brainers at tenure time, 5 years down the road. They need, what that means is, they need evidence of seething ambition. They need to say that they need to see that your dissertation is not the Holy Grail. It's, in your mind, something to just get done and done well so that you can get on to doing the next thing and doing it well. They have to see that what fundamentally drives you as a writer is that you can't help it. You create because you can't live if you're not creating. That's what they need to see. I also write lots of external tenure review letters, and I don't have any stake in that game particularly, so I've refused to write letters sometimes, but sometimes I will write letters saying, okay, in the last 3 years, this person has gotten 3 articles out. The 3 years before that, the person didn't get anything out. Or it might be worse than that. Sometimes I've seen things where the person's gotten 3 articles in the past year and nothing before that. So I will say, if I were a senior colleague in this department, I would be thinking of this as a potential retirement party, and I would think that this person has done a lot, has had a career worth celebrating, but this is it. And nobody I've said that about has actually gotten tenure. And I've had deans and department heads write me saying, thank you for telling it like it is. But you don't want your profile to look like that. You want to be publishing. It doesn't have to be when you're a graduate student, but I don't think that's premature. Some people would say it's premature. I think they're wrong. But I would say you want to be publishing steadily, and when you come up for tenure, it really has to be true that your dissertation has receded years into the background, and the thing that's driving you now is something quite different, and that thing is going to be driving you for years to come. And there's probably going to be something after that, too. That's what they need to see as a trajectory. So a Cowanism, then, to close, is I agree with what I think Tyler would say is that however hard you think is, and however hard you think it's going to be harder than that. But however rewarding you think it's going to be more rewarding than that. So thank you. I wish you good luck. I'm ready for questions.